Hi, I'm Terri Savelle. Thank you so much for watching. Let's talk about what frustration says about you. But first, I heard someone say that the worst day in heaven would be when God gives you a glimpse of all that you could have had, all that you could have been, and all that you could have done. But for some reason, you gave up along the way. You just gave up on your dreams, your goals. You lost your passion. That would be the worst day in heaven. In fact, Inc. magazine said this: 63% of workers worldwide are not engaged in their work. 63%. Then it said this: that does not include the 24% who are actively disengaged. One of the key factors is most are not using their natural gifts and talents. In fact, they went on to say, eagles, they said, think about this. An eagle can fly anywhere from 75 to 125 miles a day. Then they said this: an elephant can roam up to 50 miles a day. However, if you see them at a zoo behind a cage, they said they're not living the life they were made to live. In fact, they feel stifled, suffocated, and trapped. Now, they were comparing that to the 63% of workers who are trapped in this cycle of going to work, getting a paycheck, going home, miserable, doing it again the next year, do it again the next year, feeling stifled, suffocated, and trapped. Well, God has more for your life than that. He doesn't want you just stuck in that vicious cycle. But a lot of times you just get in that rut. You get in that routine. Well, when was the last time you got excited about Monday morning? Getting up and going to something that you're passionate about. In fact, did you know that there is a 20% spike in heart attacks on Monday morning? Monday morning between the hours of 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. A 20% spike in heart attacks. Isn't that crazy? That just proves just that dread, that anxiety, that lack of motivation and passion to get up and do it again another week. Well, I believe God has more for your life than that. In fact, did you know that one of the ways that you can locate your vision, your passion, your purpose is through frustration? What does your frustration say about you? It just proves that you have vision. I heard Andy Stanley say this. He said, vision is always the solution to a problem. So the fact that you're frustrated about something, that just proves you see a solution. You know there's a better way. You know there's a better way to do it. Well, in fact, I was reading this story about a woman named Chris Carr. Now, here's what it said. In 2003, Chris Carr was a 32-year-old New Yorker just enjoying life. Well, she went to the doctor for a regular checkup, and it resulted in a diagnosis of a rare and incurable stage 4 cancer existing in her liver and her lungs. Well, instead of succumbing to the disease, Carr decided to challenge her diagnosis head on. What she did was she began attacking cancer with a brand new nutritional lifestyle and turned her experience into a series of successful self-help books and documentaries. She has become a New York Times #1 best-selling author and an Amazon #1 best-selling author. Well, today, Carr is celebrating a decade of thriving with cancer and is known as one of the most prominent experts on healthy living and helping people with cancer. 10 years later. In other words, she turned her frustration, her pain into purpose. She discovered her calling through that frustration. Well, it's the same with Gary Heaven. You may have heard of him. He said at a young age, he watched his mother die of obesity. Well, it broke his heart so much, and out of that pain of watching his mom die, it turned into his purpose. He said, I hated seeing women dying of this disease, so he went out and started a franchise called Curves, helping women defeat that obesity and being overweight. Well, like I said, he turned his pain into purpose. He located his vision through his frustration. Well, it's the same with, I'm sure you've heard of John Walsh. You remember the story how his young son was at a Sears department store just playing a little video game, and his mom said, I'm just going to leave you here for a second. I'm going to go look at some lamps. Well, he was abducted, he was murdered, and for years they never knew who took their son, what happened. They don't know the details of it. Well, that pain, that severe pain and that loss in his life, it enabled him to discover his purpose. Many of you may have seen him on America's Most Wanted. In fact, he's responsible for turning in over 1,000 of the world's most criminals and getting them behind bars. Well, those are ways that you can locate your vision, your passion, your purpose is through your frustrations. But it doesn't always have to be that severe and that life or death, murder and cancer and, obesity and things like that. But think about on a lighter note, what is it that frustrates you? It could be something as simple as driving through your neighborhood and you see weeds in the flower beds in your neighbor's yards. You see how unkept they are and it just frustrates you because you love planting flowers. You love pulling weeds and making it beautiful. Well, see, that could be a sign that you need to start a side business of planting flowers or start a landscaping company. Or, maybe it's misspelled words in the church bulletin, and every time you read it, you just cringe at the grammatical errors and the jacked up punctuation. If that bothers you, that frustration could be a sign that you need to use your gift of writing to help the church. Or, it could be maybe you go to the gym faithfully and you see some of the same people who are working out, but they're not losing weight, and you know it has to do with their nutrition, their diet. Well, maybe that's a sign. If it frustrates you to see people struggling like that, maybe God's calling you to start a little side business as a personal trainer and help them with nutrition and a healthy diet. It could be things like that. It could be money. Maybe you see your friends or your family spending every dollar they make. They get their paycheck, they spend every bit of it. And they're not saving a dime. So you think 5 years from now, if you keep this up, how much are you going to have? Nothing. 20 years from now, how much are you going to have? Nothing. And as Dave Ramsey says, in their elderly years, their older years, they're going to be living on social insecurity and eating Alpo, right? Well, maybe if that frustrates you so much, maybe God's leading you to teach a money class at your church or at your office. See, frustration is a sign that you have vision. It's always the solution to a problem. I was thinking about even elderly people. Maybe it frustrates you to see precious elderly people in a nursing home with nobody visiting them. Their families are so busy that they just don't have time to go and visit, and that hurts your heart so much. Maybe God's leading you to start a book club at the nursing home and read to these precious people. So think about the things in your life that frustrate you, that just irritate you, and you're thinking, there's a solution to this. Why doesn't somebody do something about it? Well, maybe God's leading you to do something about it. I love the story in the Bible of the 4 lepers. They're sitting outside the city gate, and all of a sudden one of them just pipes up and says, are we just going to sit here until we die? We're going to die anyway of the leprosy. We might as well die trying. And they got up and went after what belonged to them. Do you know the moment you make up your mind you're going somewhere, you become a threat to the enemy? So remember this, making no decision is still making a decision. And I believe God could be speaking to you today saying that frustration you have, that thing that just irritates you, I'm speaking to you about your own vision. So that's one of the ways you locate it is by locating your frustrations. It helps you identify your vision. If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to this channel. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I want to keep you motivated to achieve your dreams. Thanks for watching.